Welcome to Flip Classroom. Today I'm going to talk a little bit more about MLA 9, as well as the works cited page and annotated bibliographies. Let's begin by talking about what is MLA. I'll start by saying it isn't something that is just randomly made up, and it changes. So for example, right now we are on the 9th edition. When I was in college, we were in the 5th edition. And so it changes usually about every 5 years or when technology changes. I'm predicting that now as we move into more AI, ChatGPT, and so forth, there's probably a MLA 10 on the horizon. But for now, we're using the 9th edition. MLA, Modern Language Association, they produced this book, this handbook, and it's about $28. Oh, and it's lots of pages. It's very thick. It would tell you how to cite your sources. MLA 9 is basically keeps us all consistent. So if you are doing the title of a book, everybody doing MLA 9 would italicize a book title. That sends the message, hey, this is a book. It's not a website. In the old days, when we were doing MLA 5, we would underline a book title. We don't do that anymore. So now when you see something italicized, you know it is a book title, not a website, not a poem, or something else. Now, what we do here is we don't make students always buy the expensive book because at your school library, there is usually a citation guide that is for free. And here we have one right here where it says Citation Help. And that is usually a smaller document your school library will put out. So let's take a look at our MLA guide. On the first page, it basically has the two parts of MLA. One is the in-text citation, and the other is the works cited page. An in-text citation tells you within the essay, who is the author? Where do you find this source? The other part of MLA is the works cited page. That comes at the end of the essay, and it gives all the detailed information. So if you're looking right here, you can see that the in-text citation comes at the end of the sentence. And there aren't even any quotation marks here. So it's not an exact quote, but this information is not common knowledge. It means the average person in your peer group would not know it. So they're giving the author and the page number. But that might not be enough information. That's why at the end of your essay, you have all the information. We have the author's last name and first name, the title of the whole book, italicized, the publisher of the book, the year. We don't really need that information because it would interrupt the main idea. So we keep that at the end, all this extra information, and we do a brief, what we call in-text citation. So let's take a look now at how to create citations for your works cited page. In the MLA guide, it'll tell you how to cite a book with one author, two authors, and three authors. They all share the same format for a print copy of book with the author and a period. Title of the book italicized. Contributors, most cases there won't be one, so you'd skip it. Version, most cases won't be one, skip it. Same with number. The publisher, comma, and publication date with a period. The only difference is if you have two authors and if you have three authors. Once you have three authors, we switch to the Latin form and we write et al. With the period after all, and that signifies that there are more than three authors. We also have a structure for database articles. In most cases, the database will tell you what the citation is, but be cautious because a computer-generated citation will not be perfect. So as it says here, you should copy and paste the citation, then make edits. And the way you'll know how to make edits is you would follow the MLA guide because a database article would author's last name, comma, first name, period, title of the articles in quotation marks, title of the periodical is italicized. You have the number, publication date, pages. Here's the big one, the name of the database, academic search complete, opposing viewpoints, congressional quarterly. Sometimes the automatic generator does not put that. You also need the DOI, document object identifier, or permalink. That's what we call the URL. So let's take a look at how we could use an automatic generator and copy paste it and then match it to the MLA guide. Here we are at the library catalog, and we could click on research databases. I'd always start with academic search complete. And let's say our topic is police brutality. We type in police brutality. The articles will generate, and of course, we'd go through them to select the one we want. To make it easy, I'm going to select the first one. And over here, we have the automatic citation. Now, it's going to make you pick the format. And again, we use MLA, so we pick MLA, and there we go. We would copy and paste this onto our works cited page. But what's going to happen is when I copy and paste this italicized part is going to not be italicized. And in this case, EBSCOhost, which is the name of the database, will also lose italicized font. So that is why we go to the MLA guide and we make sure, okay, is the title of the article in quotation marks? Is the title of the periodical italicized? Do we have a name of the database? In this case, it was EBSCO. So we take what the generates, but we double check. The citation guide will give you some examples right here. This one has a permalink. A permalink is basically a URL. Notice it's italicized. This one has a DOI. Here's an example from CQ Researcher, opposing viewpoint. So they give you some examples there to follow. The MLA guide also shows you how to cite web sources, basically a website. Again, it follows the pattern, author with the period, title and quotation marks, title of the website italicized. And again, it'll have this version if applicable. Most won't have it. So in that case, you would skip it. Most websites don't have a number. Skip it. Now, publisher, this one's very interesting, specifically for YouTube. If the publisher and the website are the same, and that's true for YouTube, because the website is YouTube and it's published by YouTube, omit if identical. So you don't want it to say YouTube, right? Just once, YouTube. Publication information, not always available. Date of access. So this is the day that you actually went to the website to get the information. Sometimes websites do not have an author. So in that case, when you don't have the information, just like version, just like number, when you don't have it, you skip it. So you'll see here how this website has no author. So it skipped it and it went straight to title page of the article. So that's usually the rule. When the information is missing, you just skip it and move on to the next piece of information that you do have. Here's an example of YouTube. Notice how it says TED for TED Talk. If it said YouTube, the automatic generator would say YouTube. It'd say it twice. We don't do that. We say it once. And there's a few other things, television shows, interviews, and more. Now let's review in-text citations. They are usually the author's name and page number, but in some cases you won't have an author, specifically with websites or page numbers. Same with websites. They don't always have page numbers. In-text citations come at the end of the sentence in the essay, not the end of the quote, end of the sentence. And sometimes you'll use an in-text citation even when there's no quote, because if the information is not common knowledge, you need to tell the readers where you got your information. So one author, two authors, three authors. Again, you're going to use the et al. Notice where the period is. I also want to point out there's no comma between the author's last name and the page number, and there's no P or PG or PAGE, no spelling it out. In many cases, for example, with websites, there is no author. So going back to the rule of skip it and moving on to the next piece of information would be the title of the website. And again, many times there are no page numbers. Just have the author's name. Now, you will get websites that have no author and no page number. In that case, move on to the information you do have, which would be the first piece of information, the title of the article. So when I say use the first piece of information, this is what I mean. Looking at this example of a works cited page, the first piece of information here we see three authors. This one, we can see there is no author. So what would go inside the works cited in-text citation is the first word or group of words. This one does have an author, but notice there are no page numbers, so there wouldn't be any. If we look here at this example, you can see, there we go. there's a page number and there are three authors. And on this one, there is a page number, but since it is the same author, we just put the page number at the end. On this one, it's a website, so it does not have an author's name. You only go to the first piece of information that is on the works cited, which in this case is fast facts. Let's go back to the in-text citation. The other thing I want to point is it's very good to use a lead-in. If you use a lead-in, you do not need to repeat the author's name. So a lead-in is a sentence format according to Dr. Smartypants, okay? Or according to Garcia. Then you would have your quote or your information in the page number. I do not need to write the author's name here because it is in the lead-in. So if it's already in the lead-in, you can skip it and just put the page number. When you think of in-text citations, you want the least amount of information that does not interrupt the flow of the information. Because when they want more information, they go to the end of the essay and look at the works cited page. The last thing I want to point out is the difference between a works cited and an annotated bibliography. They are very much the same. If you look, there is your citation. The only difference is in an annotated bibliography, you have a few sentences after. Every professor has different guidelines, but generally speaking, in terms of the format, you do your works cited and you do your sentences after, same with the indentation with double spacing. So as a reminder, nobody's expected to memorize MLA 9 format, especially when it's going to be MLA 10 coming up. Treat it like a chef with a cookbook. You look up the recipes to find the ingredients. You always have it as your guide. It's not something you can memorize. Thank you for joining me today in Flipped Classroom.